Hi,
Hello,
Valentin. Can you see me?
I can see you, and I think we're live.
Okay, I think we're live. Hello, and welcome. Welcome to the
Hello,
Postman
hello.
live stream. We have a very special guest today. Valentin Despa, folk hero. You've Oh, okay, let's introduce ourselves first. My name is Joyce. I'm a developer advocate and I work at Postman. Valentin?
Well, I don't work at Postman, but I use Postman a lot. Yeah, many of you probably know me from YouTube or took one of my courses. Many of you call me simply Valentine. It's just easier to communicate that way. I'm not so fancy about names, but yeah, I'm super excited to be here. And just to give you a bit of my background, I'm a software developer, but I'm super excited about everything that's going on from a technology point of view. And I started using Postman a few years back when I was like at the point, this is easy to understand. It's like using a browser. You don't need so much information to get started. And then, I noticed that there's some functionality that's hidden or quite interesting. And then, I started learning more and more about it and started creating tutorials on YouTube. And after that, also creating online courses about Postman and also other technologies that integrate well with Postman overall. And yeah, I'm here for this webcast and I'm super excited. I brought with me a couple of interesting questions. So I'm going to test your Postman know-how in this session. And yeah, that's the
Wait,
idea for today.
am I pronouncing your name wrong? I've been saying Valentin.
That's okay as well. So probably Valentine is much easier to pronounce, especially for English people, but English-speaking persons. But Valentine is also
What do you
okay.
prefer?
I don't have a
Okay, well
preference.
that doubt is always gonna linger. So, Valentin, I think I met you.
No
I met
worries.
you a couple years ago, and when I first talked to you online, you were a full-time, full stack, I think, developer, and you were living in Germany, I want to say.
Yeah, that's
And
correct.
then you just, you're taking this kind of sabbatical. You quit. Now what are you, like a digital nomad?
Yeah, you can call me a digital nomad. I don't fancy the term so much, but essentially, yes, I'm sort of like location independent and living the dream, traveling. Well, not so much right now with all this crazy period, but yeah, essentially, I started traveling like I think 2 years ago. I decided to go to Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia for 6 months. And I was like super unsure because I was coming like from this, typical lifestyle of having a regular job, having a few weeks of vacation every year, and and never been anywhere for like more than 3 weeks at a time. So going at the other end of the world for 6 months was like super scary in the beginning, but I definitely enjoyed it. And I'm having a hard time stopping right now doing this, but I'm trying to balance work and traveling and
I can't
everything.
believe you're
Yes.
traveling in the middle of a pandemic. So I am based in San Francisco. Where are you right now?
Right now I'm in
Oh,
Germany, but I just came back from I think a 5 or almost 5 months trip, starting in Colombia, then going to Mexico, and then a few months in the US. Originally, it was planned to be a bit longer, but as the situation in the US was
yeah.
deteriorating, decided to go back. Yeah, it's a bit safer
Yeah.
here in Germany and Europe altogether
Yeah, it's
currently.
probably the best thing to do.
Well,
I didn't realize you
yeah,
were back in Germany. I was thinking we were in the same time zone, but thank you very much for
no,
participating on this live stream. Before we hop into the trivia portion, I will say that if you want to participate in this quizzing ourselves, I will also be participating. You need to log into Twitch in order to respond in the Twitch chat. We also have, so this is the first time we've had a stream where Arlemy is not lurking in the back, doing the stream, coordinating the stream. We actually have Sue here, helping out in the background. So you might see Sue in the chat. If you missed that episode, Sue came on as a special guest with Arlemy to learn about Glitch. Valentin, have you used Glitch before?
Actually not.
It's pretty neat, and it's a really interesting teaching tool, which is what Sue was kind of demonstrating with that episode. But we have Sue operating in the background, no Arlemy, very, very sad. But for this special guest, we have Valentin. I'm going to go ahead and start off with the segment that we do every week, which is, let me see if I could do this correctly. In case you missed it, did I do that right?
Yay.
I don't think I did that. Okay, so hopefully you see my screen here. I'm going to scooch over to this other computer. One thing is, as always, we're going to our community.postman.com. And Valentin, you answer questions here all the time. I can tell when you're looking something up because you answer like a bunch of people's questions. So if I go to Postman News, I'm going to go to what's new in Postman V29. So this is some of the, every time we have a release, and they're coming more and more, a lot of stuff is happening. We have this too long didn't read kind of summary. So just two things that I want to call out this time. The first one is autocomplete in the Postman sandbox. And we actually looked at this a few weeks ago when it was in Canary, our early build. If you're curious about Canary, go ahead and we'll drop a link to our Canary download page, and you get a sneak peek at these kind of features. So I'm going to zoom in. That's probably pretty small there. And you can see as you type under the pre-request script or tests tabs, you have this autocomplete, so you can learn a little bit more about the functions, the parameters, and what there is. That's pretty neat.
That's actually super useful. This is something I've been waiting for such a long time and super excited to see it.
And the other thing that I wanted to point out, I don't know do you use Open API, Valentin?
A bit. Not a huge fan of it, but yeah. There are many tools, especially in software development. You can automatically generate Open API schemas directly from your code, so that's super practical. But yeah, it's if you have to write it manually, it's definitely not
so
easy.
A lot of people do have opinions about API specifications, but a lot of the big companies, they're using Open API. So one of the things that was a pretty big feature request, it was number 1 or number 2 feature request of last year, was give me Open API support. And this is essentially when you import a spec file or you're editing it, you have this inline governance. So if it's not complying with Open API specification format, you'll see these little errors pop up, and then you can fix it. So it makes it a little bit more seamless, but we do have an Open API live stream scheduled coming up. So if you're curious about that, keep your eyes peeled. But otherwise, that was in case you missed it.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, I think Postman also joined like the Open API initiative, or how is it called? The organization?
Yeah, the Open API initiative. We'll drop a link to that article in the chat, but that is something, I think it came out today or yesterday. There was some timing, like the press got a hold of it, and then we just announced it today, and that's pretty big news too.
Yeah, it's really big. Congrats on that.
So let me go ahead and hopefully we'll see Postman Trivia questions. Valentin, you were one of the speakers at PostCon, our user conference last year.
Yeah, that's correct.
And what was the title of your talk?
I think it was like 10 things you did not know Postman can do, or something like that.
I watched a recording. I wasn't able to attend in person, but I watched a recording, and that was one of the highest rated post-con sessions. So for anyone tuning in now, you don't have to travel to San Francisco to see this talk. This is I think we're going to go a little bit more beyond your post-con talk today, right?
Yeah, it's actually what I gathered here in terms of questions is what many of you face when when using Postman and when trying to build sometimes simple things, but sometimes more complex things. And generally, I'm answering, I think, almost every day about 20 Postman questions. So over time, there's like this massive amount of things that I've noticed a lot of people stumble upon. So I tried in this trivia to add like this kind of body of information, and also to have the opportunity to make it interactive, to see what you're understanding and how do you think Postman works, but also to explain like some weird parts about Postman that you may or may not know. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So I
you
took
enjoy
a
it.
peek at some of these questions the other day, and some of them are definitively Postman tricks, but some of them are just JavaScript and coding tricks. So I think it's I didn't look at all of them because I still wanted to test myself on some of these. It got really hard, and so I was like, I'll just wait until tomorrow. But just as a reminder, if you want to play along, go ahead and log in to Twitch, and then we'll be asking these questions, teeing them up, and then you can answer. We'll have a limited amount of time for you to provide your answer in the stream chat. Don't be shy. And then Sue is in the background. She'll be granting points. And at the very end, we have a pretty sweet giveaway. We've never given out a hoodie before. Sometimes we do socks and sometimes we do t-shirts. But we're going to have a few winners. And the hoodie's probably the coolest thing. One other thing that we have here is we have all this. Can you see this? We have all this cute Postman swag. And this was for Pride Month. Limited edition, but I mean, I don't even know, like, where's my finger? Do you see this? Wow. That's the Pride. Here's
yeah, I see.
Pride. There's all these other things that I don't even know. I mean, there should be like a key on the back or something, but you have the chance to win free stuff. So go ahead and log in. Valentin, are you ready?
I don't know. I'm ready.
Okay.
Is everyone else ready?
So go ahead and log into Twitch, get your fingers, start stretching them out. So Sue is in the background. Hopefully Sue is ready too, because she's going to be awarding the points. And if you're really nice to her and you say nice things, then maybe she'll give you more points. There will be a speed component. I'm actually not sure how many people want to play this game, but I personally want to test my knowledge. And these trivia questions are, I think, going to be an increasing level of difficulty. So we usually have more and more people join throughout the stream. This is our chance to get some pretty good questions, or pretty, let's say, easy questions answered and get your points in. So go ahead and log in to Twitch, and anytime you're ready, Valentin, I want to quiz myself.
Yeah, and definitely. I mean, who wouldn't want to win one of your hoodies?
The hoodies are nice.
And if I heard correctly, you got a new edition recently or something like that. So they have an updated design?
Yeah, limited edition, because we're constantly coming out with new stuff. So like you might be one of like 100 people that have this hoodie. Okay, wow. I think we're ready.
Nice. Okay, so let's get started with the first question. Let's get that keyboard moving. Okay. So. All
right. So
will you read the question?
I'll read it. Which of the following is the official Postman logo? So this one's actually pretty challenging. I said we're going to start with easy questions, but if you're logged into Twitch, go ahead and provide your answer now. This is your chance to rack up the points before other people join us. And hopefully not too many of you guys answer. Well, that's fine. Okay, so good. Sue is there, and she's granting you points.
Yeah.
And then we'll stop periodically to see who is in the lead. But I think that's pretty good. That was... What is the answer, Valentin?
Whoa! I thought we were testing you on this one.
This one I know. I work at Postman.
Yeah. Okay. So I think if we're just looking at the chat, we'll see that the correct answer is C for this one. So yeah, looks good so far.
It just occurs to me that people can see what other people said and then just take their answer. But it's still, I think Sue might start awarding for, oh yeah, there. She awarded the first one, yeah.
This was just the first question, so probably we'll see the next one, how it goes,
next.
if it will be so easy.
What is the name of the Postman CEO?
Ooh, it's getting harder. So let's see.
I only know 2 of these. Are these all real people?
Yes, they are.
Oh, I'm curious who these famous people are that I don't know.
Well, they are all CEOs, I can tell you that. I mean, apart from the first one, there are all other Indian CEOs. And of course, Bill Gates is not Indian, but he was a CEO. It's probably one of the names that everyone recognizes.
Okay,
But
what
I
is the
think,
answer?
oh, so the answer for this one is B. So Abhinav is the Postman CEO.
I knew that one. He's so handsome there. That's a good picture.
That's a good picture. I've stolen it from your website. Hopefully you don't mind. But yeah.
So unfortunately,
Okay.
I just want to let people know you need a login to play this game. And if we've already given the answer, then you don't get credit for your answer. Okay, next question.
Next question. Okay. We're getting warm here.
What is the name of what is the name of the experimental Postman app that you can use to get access to the newest features? So if you were conscious earlier in the live stream, you might have seen
exactly
a clue.
I think my questions are too easy.
No. This is like people were awarding people for showing up early.
We definitely appreciate that. Otherwise, without you guys there playing this game with us, it wouldn't be fun. So thank you all for being on time and grabbing all these points. And,
Valentin, don't worry.
Yeah.
It gets much, much harder. Hopefully. I definitely could not answer questions and we were only halfway through.
Well, we'll practice.
Hi, Matovic. Okay, let's move on. So if anyone new is joining, log into Twitch so that you can play this game. We are moving on to question number... Wait. The answer, number 3. What is the answer?
What's the answer? Oh. Postman Canary. So should be not
yes,
B.
B. Nice. So we talked about using Canary a few weeks ago to show autocomplete. And then now it's out in production. So that was probably 2 weeks. Sometimes stuff sits in there a little bit longer as engineering fixes stuff and improves on it. But sometimes it's just in there for a little bit.
Yeah, and the best part is that you can install this version in parallel to your normal Postman version, and you can just try out. If you read like the release notes, you'll figure out what the Postman team is working on and what's coming up next. So that's super helpful. And of course, if you have some time, you can even help the Postman team. You find some bugs or something is not working as it should work. You can just go to the issue tracker on GitHub and give them a hand with this. And
yeah,
a win-win for everyone.
I use it side by side. I log into the same account, but I can use it side by side and it still syncs. So I'm not like stomping on anything that I'm currently working on. All right.
Great. So let's move on to the next one.
Yes, I have all this lush foliage behind me.
You know so many people here. I'm totally new to
regulars.
Twitch. So
somebody just turned on my light. I bet that's Fausti. Okay. In which year was Postman first launched?
Oh, it's a hard one.
This is a good question. And I bet if you ask Postman people, so now we're starting to get into some trick questions. So go ahead and answer what you think it is. What year was Postman first launched? All right.
Yeah.
So you could answer this 2 ways. So Postman started off as a side project, and then at another point it got so popular that it became a company. So what is the answer, Valentin?
So the answer is actually 2012. Of course, it's not the point when the company was founded because that was like way too early. But when Abhinav started working on this product, he went on Stack Overflow, this platform where you can ask questions or get answers. And at that time, there were like a lot of people trying to make requests. And at that time, it was actually quite hard. If you were like a developer and you had to work with an API and you didn't want to write code or your application, you weren't sure how the API works, there were not so many tools out there that could help you with that. Nowadays, Postman is number one, but there are also a lot of other clients out there that can help you do this. And we take it for granted. But in 2012, this was like, mind-blowing. And look where we are like just a few years later. And, Postman has grown into this amazing company. And also the product itself has grown to be, the Postman tool that we now use in our day-to-day work, and we learn to love so much, actually, right?
Look at all that karma. I wish I created Postman.
Yeah. Damn it. Next time.
All right. Next question.
Next question.
Which communication protocols does Postman support? This is a good question. I get this question all the time because people... Do you get this question? I assume people ask you this.
Well, yes, especially in regards to WebSockets. So there are a lot of people trying to figure out how to do this with Postman. So yeah, it's definitely a good question.
Oh, see, it's a little stumper.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at some of the options that are out there. So, HTTP is all the answers. So obviously, most APIs that are out there work using HTTP, or actually nowadays you cannot find anything that doesn't use HTTP as the secure connection. But there are also APIs out there that use WebSockets. So that's an interesting alternative. And also FTP is for transferring files, and SSH is for secure connection. So
I didn't even know SSH was a protocol. So
there's a bunch of protocols that are out there, but can give you a tip. Not all of them are related to Postman.
So I see some interesting things in the chat now, and I suspect that we set up the bot, the points awarder, so that you have to be following Get Postman. I'm not sure if that's the issue, and I named Gela. I wonder, and I'm so sorry, this wasn't a trick to make you follow us on Twitch, but we might have set it up so that you need to follow us in order for us to award points. So if that's the issue, please go ahead and smash that follow button.
Yeah, we'll probably not regret it. So there's no reason.
Mostly the content's decent. Mostly. Okay.
We'll see.
Got him. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a stumper. People were answering all over the place. What's the answer?
Yeah, so the answer is actually A. So Postman only supports HTTP, and probably in a developer's, APIs that somebody uses on a day-to-day or even a lot of projects, HTTP-based APIs are still number one by far. But of course, there is also this technology that works on WebSockets. It's also supported by browser, and it's gaining in popularity. Unfortunately, Postman so far doesn't have a support for that. It also works different than HTTP does. But never know. If the popularity of this technology will grow, of this protocol actually, then maybe we can, or you can squeeze it in Postman as well, and it will be a win-win for everyone. But until then, we'll have to deal with HTTP. But that's still okay. Still works.
Yeah, currently just HTTP. But Muse Steve, you asking here on the Twitch is helpful. But go ahead and mark it on our roadmap, mark it on our issues, our GitHub issues, because every vote counts. And Valentin, as you mentioned, there's so many protocols, and it's what do we start on next, right?
Yeah. And of course, a lot of technologies that we're talking about, especially REST APIs, but also now GraphQL, are still based on HTTP. So these are things that work on top of HTTP, which Postman supports, of course. Then you need more additional features to make it easier to work with these kind of things in Postman. But yeah, overall, all HTTP based. So yeah. And of course, if you guys want to use WebSockets in Postman, head out to github.com. On the Postman issue tracker, and I guarantee you will find an issue there regarding WebSockets.
WebSockets, yeah.
So yeah, go ahead and vote that, and yeah.
Thank you, Kevin Swiber, for Sue's awarding tickets and doing all this stuff. Thank you, Kevin. There's a link to that issue. Go ahead and upvote it. Put your use case. Every comment, every emoji really goes into the product roadmap.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Now we are manipulating the product roadmap here.
Manipulating it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
All right. Next.
What is the main difference between a GET and a POST request with HTTP? So this one I had to think about because I'm not very smart.
Well, think about how would you approach it? We can also start eliminating answers. Just
So enough people have answered that I can start thinking out loud. But initially I was thinking it doesn't have a body, but I thought there was a way that you can submit a body. I thought it was just like the recommendation is that you don't submit a body, but I feel like I have.
Well, actually, the specification for HTTP doesn't include something you shouldn't send a body. And the way HTTP works in general, technically, is just a block of text. So what goes out from Postman is just this block of text where everything is ordered as it's supposed to be. Then of course you can include a body. Most of the time, the server or the API will not expect a body with a GET request because the idea is with GET, you're getting data, you're not sending any data. So with the body, it wouldn't make sense. So typically, it should not have a body. You could include one, but so far, I actually never saw an API that would accept data with a GET request. And also, GET request is one of those requests that shouldn't change any data on the server. So for that reason, it's so easy to introduce, especially security issues, by allowing to change something with a GET request. But also, browsers will treat a GET request totally different from a POST request. Probably sometimes so when you're reloading a page, you're being asked, hey, we want to resubmit a form or something like that. We'll not get something like that with GET. So it's an important distinction. Otherwise, apart from the body, all these HTTP methods can have headers, can have query parameters, cookies, and so on. And
So Spousey says, I could see using GET requests with a body for some complicated query like geo plus search words.
Yeah, but even in the query parameters, they will still have you could add pretty long strings. But of course, they can be used as long as the server, as long as the API would look for a body in that request, it will work. Otherwise, you cannot dictate to an API to accept a body if there's no body accepted there.
Nobody accepted.
Nobody accepted.
Okay, now we're getting some conversation going on in the chat.
Yeah, I think this is also the interesting part, looking at some aspects and trying to understand better how things work. But now let's move on to the next question, right?
I believe we've kind of gotten a little bit higher in difficulty. So Sue is granting higher points. And I'm going to try this thing. I don't know if this works, but I'm going to try this command. Okay, well, it's beautifully formatted. These are the top winners.
Number one is Postman. Yeah.
Frefford is always comes in clutch. So okay, you can ignore brain dead error because that's Sue. There's some level of there are at least 2 Postman people that are disqualified. So don't be discouraged if you find yourself. So it's time to. I realize we should jump up the number of points. 10 is number 1, Matovic. Okay, so if you just joined us, go ahead and log into Twitch, play along. We are on number 6 out of how many, Valentin?
I think 25.
25, okay.
Wow, so we still have a bit to go. It's going to be exciting.
That's right, brain dead error. Beautiful observation. So I forgot to clear the point totals. But we are going to start awarding higher points, and you'll get some additional point karma going in there. We are going to move on to the next. Wait, did we already do the answer?
Yes, I think it's B. It's B.
B.
Yes. Yeah. Now everybody knows the answer, but
Did you change the card to the answer?
Possible.
Do you see it on your screen?
You mean the next question, or
did you display the answer for question 6?
I don't think there's something to display.
Got it.
So
Okay.
we'll have to jump directly to question 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the next question.
Okay. Ooh, again, HTTP.
What does an HTTP response with a 400 status code indicate? Fingers ready. Go ahead and answer if you know it. You get points for speed. Okay, so I see B, E, D. Okay, this is another good stumper.
Mm-hmm.
So I know.
So
okay,
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So what would happen if you make a request and you get a 400 back? What will say after the 400? What will be the text for this status code?
Don't make me look stupid, Valentin.
Come on, you know it.
I don't know it. I get all the HTTP codes confused. What is 400? Did somebody answer what is the 400 text? You get bonus points if you know the text.
Bonus points. I think it starts with bad something.
JW Banning says resource not found. Muse Steve says bad request.
A resource not found would be a 404. So that's one of the most common things you will see, especially if you're browsing the web.
Found?
No. Bad request. That's the
bad
correct
request.
one.
Muse Steve
so
gets extra points, please, Sue. Just whatever points. You feel like.
Yeah. So if we're thinking in that direction, if the request is bad, who created that request?
The client created the request.
The client. Yeah, so the correct one for this one is the client. This indicates a client error. It's actually one of the status codes that when you're working with an API, and that API expects that you send some parameters or you send some information in the body, and you get back a 400, it's like almost always your fault. This is like, we're talking here client error. This is like the official way of like classifying this error. But what the server is telling you, it's your fault. You did something wrong. Fix it. It's not my fault. You didn't give me what I expected. So this is why this is considered a client error. There's a parameter missing, or one parameter or something is probably misspelled, or something in that regard. So always like check your request, go back to Postman, see what you have written, check again the API documentation, and yeah, that will get you on the right direction.
There's so many different chatters going on here. Muse Steve says validation error is most popular use case with 400. Validation error.
Yeah. Also, validation error can be something that's actually a pretty good point. I forgot to mention that as well. So in the sense that, let's say you are submitting some data, an email address, and then that email address doesn't correspond to the format that the server, the API is expecting, then again we'll get a 400. Yes, in this case, you'll have the right field. You will send email, but that email is not in a valid format. So yeah. That's also a pretty good comment here.
And I just realized, like, this is why it's so valuable. Like, your perspective here, Valentin, is so valuable. It's not like you're changing the tech, but I saw on one of your platforms, I think it was Udemy, you've taught over 100,000 students. Over 100,000 students have taken your Udemy course. And you don't just teach Postman. You teach on a few different platforms, a few different tech, a few different, things. And these are questions where people, like, you just walked us through the elimination error to get to client error. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. And, in many things, it's important that you have like this analytical perspective. When something doesn't work, it is frustrating, of course. But if you understand what the API is actually saying, and especially for APIs that are built properly, they will follow some, predefined patterns in terms of which status code to give back, which errors to give back. So it's super important that you look at the status code to understand, okay, what's the problem? Is it an authentication error? Is it like a server error? Is it the client error? So that I know where I'm looking for the problem if something doesn't work, but also what's inside the body. So for example, if the email validation will have an issue, then most of the time you will find some hints in the response body telling like, email format is not, what we expected. So yeah, that's the way it goes.
So I think Shinkin, you were trying to do bang top, and I think that is maybe only me and Sue can do it. I'm not sure. Apologies. I'm also on this Windows keyboard, so I'm like flopping around. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have another? Are we ready?
We're ready for another question or ready for...
Another question.
Let's go. Do you guys like it, or is it too hard for you? Or
no one's gonna say it's too hard.
It's not hard.
Okay, question 8.
Just have to take it easy.
Question 8 out of 25.
We're jumping into Postman.
I'm not a good test taker. Okay, so Macrobus, there was an error with the... okay, let me read it. This is an invalid JSON payload. What is wrong? For speed. And while you guys answer this question, there is an error with the bot that we're using. Apologies, but we'll start granting higher point totals, I believe, so that we can kind of... the number of points awarded is going to go up as we get harder and harder. Wait,
Sounds
I don't
good.
have audio?
You have. You're right.
Creekburn. If you can't hear, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so invalid JSON payload.
Mm-hmm. So what would make an JSON payload invalid?
JSON needs to have double quotes, but on both the property and the value, right? But
it's partially true. So definitely double quotes will do the trick when we're talking about JSON. But this is the question: do all values need double quotes, or are there some kind of values that don't need double quotes?
So age would be like an integer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably doesn't require... Okay. I don't want to give anything away, but I also don't know the answer.
Try to know. So first of all, let's begin. What are we actually sending? Are we sending... we have these globals here. We have the first name, we have the age, we have an initial value, and we have a current value. So first of all, we need to understand how the JSON will look like before we can tell if it's valid or not. Because as it stands, for the initial value, they are both strings. But in the current value, we'll have a string and then an integer, a number. So, what happens? What will happen if we submit this request as it stands with this data?
So current value overrides initial value, so it will be Jane, and then it'll be 33. But Jane probably requires bloop bloop. No?
Yep. Yeah. And if you put a number between quotes, what will happen?
It'll be a string.
It will be a string. Yeah. So if the intention, of course, is to send a string, then definitely put it in between quotes. But otherwise, only the first name with this data that we have right now requires double quotes to make this JSON valid. And you wouldn't believe how many people get this wrong. And especially when using Postman variables, so many people expect that Postman will magically know what kind of data you're trying to send. And this is why Postman will just simply replace this value. So we'll replace the first name, we'll replace the age, but you are responsible for managing the JSON. So for this one, we'll have answer A. I think also have an answer here. So this is the request. Generally, when I'm trying to understand how Postman works or how some requests, if I'm building a complex request body, I like to use this service. It's called httpbin.org. There are different endpoints. Probably the one I use most is the /post endpoint. And this is like a mirror. This will, whatever you send to the API will be reflected back. And you can see here in the lower part, it has something like JSON. So if HTTP bin manages to understand the payload that you've sent and gives you back here like the name and the age, that means whatever you have sent works properly. And this is like a super neat way to debug. If you're sending something to an API, you're not sure what's happening with your request body, this is a nice and easy way to inspect it. Of course, otherwise, anytime just open the console, take a look at what's being sent. But yeah, this is how valid JSON should look like.
Yeah, HTTP bin. So we have some comments in the chat. Macrobus wants to know, hey, can we change our answers? So yes, you are being graded for speed. It's totally up to Sue whether or not she takes your change, but go ahead. If you update it, just say that final. But I mean, like, there's so many people just like blah, 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 blah. So like, Steve says that doesn't feel right. If the API schema says age is of type string, it needs to, in quotes, in client JSON.
Yeah. I mean, if the API schema says that, but then it will be sending a string. But at a minimum, this is what is required to get this to run. So.
And Matovic has side-eye monkey. I'm not sure what that means, but okay. I think we're ready. Let's go on.
Let's go on. So hopefully you're learning something here, and definitely super nice to have like this chat, this conversation. I'm not here like I don't know everything. I'm also learning every day new things. So if you notice something, if you think something is wrong, just let me know. Maybe there is a mistake inside.
What will be the value of the first name form parameter when the request is sent? Go.
Ooh.
Let me try to answer this.
Go.
I know people have answered that. I can just slowly start thinking through this. Okay, so we talked about initial and current earlier.
Okay, so we know that, whatever we do, the current value is the one that's being sent, right?
Yes, but name, the variable name has double curly. Normally I see double curly name in the orange in the text field, but in the definition of globals, normally I don't see the double curly braces. Is this a trick question?
That's it. This is a trick question, of course. It's a trick question. Yeah, so indeed, that part with putting double curly braces and variable name doesn't make the variable invalid. It just gives the variable a different name. So now the variable name will include also those double curly braces in it.
So in the form, in the bottom, Postman is going to look for a variable called name without double curly braces. And since
That's
you
correct.
use that, it's undefined? Question mark?
It's not undefined. It's let's take a look. So what happens when Postman doesn't recognize a variable, and I'm pretty sure that you remember this, you have seen it before, it will just put the string that you have used. So the syntax with double curly braces and the name of the variable will still be available in your query parameters or in your body. It's a sign something hasn't been resolved. You may notice sometimes something like this when you're using environments and you're not selecting the right environment. You're just sending this syntax along. So definitely it will not be undefined. It will also not be an empty string. So as you can see here, again, I've used httpbin.org to demonstrate this. It will simply send this string that hasn't been resolved to a variable. And in Postman, you will even notice, Postman tries to help you. You'll notice that it's red. And if you hover your mouse over it, it will not show you any variables. But, all these double curly braces, you don't know exactly where to put them in scripts, in the names of the variable, in forms, in bodies, in parameters. Things get confusing.
Oh my gosh, I just looked at the chat and Shinkin went like this emoji and I was like, I know Shinkin. And then Sue awarded Shinkin 100 points. I thought for doing that emoji, but no, Shinkin got it correct. Yeah, we had a bunch of people tricked by that trick question. Shinkin, Creekburn. Oh, I think they're the only ones that got it. I also did not get it, so wow. Okay. All right, let's go. Next. Oh, and it looks like Sue is really like laying on the points now, so now's your chance to get in.
Yeah.
So as soon as you see the question, answer it, and then you'll get extra points for speed.
Yeah. And, you probably noticed that we are getting now into harder questions. So it's not, speed is good, but, taking a minute to try to understand how things work in Postman.
Wait, that's a good point. That's a good point. So, Macrobus, I'm going to say no. You can't correct your answer. It's one shot. It's a single whatever game. Okay. I hope Sue heard that.
Next question. Oh, this looks familiar.
Wait, did you go to the next question?
It's another question.
Got it.
This is
what
the
will
next
be the value
question.
of the first name form parameter when the request is sent?
Yeah.
We have a D, we have a D, B, DB. Oh, trick. So if I go through it, and I'm looking for, go ahead.
So what have we done right this time? This one. Okay, so what's the thinking?
So it's looking for the variable name without double curly braces, which this time, yes, we have name. This one's a variable scope question.
Yes, it is. It is. So we have here two scopes. We have the global scope, and we have also an environment. It's simply called the test environment. Both scopes define the same variable name. One of them defines it with Jane. The other one defines it with Mary. I think in more recent Postman versions, you will actually get a visual indication like which is the variable that will be used. But I removed that just to make it a bit trickier. Yeah. Yeah, tooltip, it will actually be like grayed out, and you'll notice that it's not the variable that will be picked up when the request will be sent.
So the two scopes in question here are the global scope and the environment scope. So which one is the winner? And the answer is Valentin?
I think it'll be the environment. So when you have an environment selected, that will override any globals that have the same variable name. So it looks for me that Mary should be the correct one, because we have current value Mary, and we're using the variable name Mary. So, yeah, it looks like Mary.
Mew Steve is killing it. I hope Mew Steve doesn't work at Postman.
Yeah, so this is how this particular situation works. I think this question was a bit easier than the last one, but we learned a few things. We learned like to look at how important it is to have the right variable name, and now also to understand which kind of variables can override other variables in Postman. And especially like this globals and environments is something that you will encounter a lot. So
Mew Steve said that they're from Pluralsight. Welcome, Mew Steve. And JW Banning also dropped a link to a variable scope diagram if you're curious about. Macrobus says, you didn't tell us which environment we were on. That was key.
Yeah, that's my fault. Sorry. So, yeah.
Okay.
What I try to convey with this question is that both variable scopes are available for Postman to select from. So there were not multiple environments to select from, but yeah, I take as feedback. Sorry for. Hopefully, I didn't cause you to miss on this one, but maybe we'll catch up on the next ones.
It looks like Sue is laying on the point. So if you can, I think even if you just joined this game, go ahead and log into Twitch. There's still time to take this, and we are giving out a hoodie and some other stuff at the end. So go ahead and log into Twitch and let us move on to the next question.
Ooh, okay. So if you attended like the PostCon last year,
Oh no.
maybe you already know it, or if you saw it on YouTube.
Okay.
This is indeed like one of the weird parts in Postman, but I think we like easily can do it together. I doubt you will ever need this in one of your projects, but you can always use it like to, play pranks on your colleagues or something like that. Somebody will definitely raise an eyebrow when we'll see something like this. So it's like a riddle inside Postman.
I'm looking at foo.
So how would you
This is almost like math, where you have to find out like what's that math rule called, where you have to resolve certain things first. I don't know what that's called. Math.
I cannot help with that.
Anyways, okay, so foo. I'm looking at foo with double curly braces, and then I start like my eyes start crossing. There's no commas. Okay. I can't see anything.
Yeah, but you know what? Let's start from the middle, okay? So we have foo with double curly braces. So if Postman would start from there, resolving the variable, what will that be replaced with?
Foo is bar.
Foo is bar. Okay. So now we have
like a pointer. I need like
bar
to point on the screen. I can't see it.
Just a second. So now we have here, we replaced foo, and we now have bar. So what does that do? Bar is foo. Okay, so then we have again, and we're here, I think at the last level of curly braces that we have. And I think we have to resolve foo again.
Will you just tell us the answer?
So, oh, come on, we're so close. So if you resolve foo again, it will be bar. So let's see if that's the correct answer as well. Yeah, this is the correct one. So let's see who got it. So the correct answer was B for this one. And if I'm looking, quite a bit of people who said B here. So that looks good. So it means it wasn't so hard. I'm just curious if you knew about this before, like that you can create nested variables in Postman and play tricks on others who do not know how to use it.
Double curly braces, all Postman is doing is saying string substitution, double curly braces, string substitution. So it's just however you want to structure that string substitution.
Yeah, and as long as there's a variable to be resolved that has that name, well, as you can see in this example, it will work. So yeah,
Sound Harya Swaminathan is like killing it too. All right, let me do the top points.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay, Muse Steve.
Let's see who's winning here.
Named Gala. Matovic, yeah. Okay, hopefully we got rid of the weirdness with the point system, because Sue is just laying on the points. There's still time.
Yes.
All right, what question are we on now?
Well, let me check. So this was question 11. So we still have a bit. So there's still time to earn points, but it's getting harder. But that's the point. No, cannot just give away points here.
This is for a hoodie. It's like a really nice hoodie.
It's really nice. I would love to have such a hoodie. I didn't know I could participate. Otherwise, I would have answered.
So wait, people are answering math. They answered my arithmetic question. So, Madvic, can we give Madvic some? Can we give Madvic some points too? All right. Next question.
What was the answer?
My question about how to resolve like parentheses, exponents. Madvic said PEM does.
Okay.
Multiplication.
Okay.
Math. All right. Nice.
Yay. All right. We have points. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. This was the... Okay, now we're getting a bit into scripting, and actually quite a few questions after this one will be like more into JavaScript. But yeah, you really need to know how to use JavaScript, at least at the basic level, in order to really take advantage of everything that Postman can do. And of course, you can anytime look it up, but yeah.
So
what's the
which function
question?
can you use to set a global variable? And even if you don't know JavaScript,
Okay.
you should be able to Google pretty quickly or look for it in our docs. Does Bang Docs work? Let me see.
Or open Postman.
Oh yeah, or like try it out.
You can try it out. Yeah, the snippets are really helpful, and especially if you're just getting started or sometimes forget how things work, you can easily get a snippet and put it in your code. And now with this autocomplete functionality that Joyce mentioned in the beginning, it should be absolutely no issue, like getting the right answer, not making any mistakes.
So if I'm reading this,
yeah, I don't think we should.
PM is a special Postman function. So whether or not it's
that's correct.
JavaScript or it's Postman, it needs to be a method on the PM API. And I know how to do PM.variables.set is how you do a local variable. So I'm looking between B and C.
Yes.
I'm guessing it's plural, like variables, but PM.environment.set is singular. So I would go with C.
I think that's a good choice. The API is sometimes inconsistent in terms of like using plural or using singular, but pm.globals.set, and then of course putting in as two parameters to this call, like the name of the variable and then the value of the variable, would be the right one. So yeah, I think in the chat quite a few people have figured out this one. Partially, this was a trick question because you may remember that Postman also has like legacy API. It starts with Postman dot, and there were like a lot of things that you could do with that particular API before this PM API appeared. And all the things was like Postman dot set global variable. And I think this is why a lot of people are still a bit confused, like what's maybe the difference between PM and Postman. But I think at this point, apart from like doing workflows where you use Postman that set next request, which is still in legacy API, and everything that you do, there's no reason to use the old API. You can use just PM and globals.set or whatever else that you're trying to do in terms of scripts with the PM API is now supported here.
Autocomplete, if you rely on the autocomplete, it'll tell you that. It'll correct your errors.
Yeah, I'll make it very, very clear what's the correct one. So yeah, I think this was a bit easier. So I'm sure the ones that use this all the time to set global variables nailed it without any problems. So
I felt pretty good that I answered that question, but then you said this was easy. So let's move on to the next one, Valentin.
Well, not so easy, but
so easy.
So easy. Okay, again, variables.
How can you get a Postman environment variable using the syntax double curly brace my variable in scripts? Okay, so we've been using the double curly in text areas.
That's correct. And we know that it doesn't work for variable names, at least not the way you would normally use it. We use this syntax a lot in query parameters, in headers, in the request body. If it's a form or it's JSON, that's definitely supported. But recently, Postman also added the possibility of resolving such variables in the code. And there's one function, one method that can really help with that and make our lives a bit easier. Otherwise, if you just put something like this as a string in your code, Postman will absolutely do nothing with it. It will not know that that is a variable. It will treat it as a string, and it will stay as a string unless you do something with it.
pm.environment.get is
And
JavaScript, but curly braces is string substitution. So I would answer this: you can't get double curly braces in the scripting areas.
well, you can, and it's actually, you don't have to use it. You can just as well use pm.variables.get and have almost the same result. But what you can do is use replace in.
Ooh.
And as for example, a way that you can use replace in. So replace in will take a string as a parameter. So it doesn't have to be only one variable. In this case, I added some text, and also inside that text, I placed one variable. But of course, you can add as many variables as you need. And what Postman will do with this variable will look over the entire text and start replacing all the variables there. It's a good way if you're trying to build a string that has multiple variables. Probably for a single variable, it will be much easier, or it make much more sense to use globals.get or environment.get or variables.get or whatever else. But for these kind of things where maybe you're combining like first name and last name and trying to test something out, instead of calling pm.globals, and again, pm.globals, it's a nice way to do that. I don't think it's something that's widely used out there, also possibly because it's relatively new. And yeah, just in case you need it.
Kevin Swiber says replace in is also good for getting values to dynamic variables, which is amazing because I always struggle with that syntax.
Yeah. So, the way the substitution works for dynamic variables is still using the syntax with double curly braces. That's definitely a valid point in terms of like any kind of variables that live inside Postman, your variables, or this, predefined dynamic variables that exist. They can also be accessed inside your scripts, and then you can use replace in and get them all there.
We have some movement.
So for this one, we have movement.
Leaderboard.
Ooh. Yeah, it's it's getting harder and harder to catch up here. I think.
Now. Okay. What are we? Is this the same question?
Okay.
Yes.
No, I was just I was just going back to see the question number. Don't worry. They all have. If you remember the color in the background, you can tell that it's a different question. Yeah.
I don't have that kind of memory.
Well, let's look at the next one to see if the color changes.
Yeah. What will the following code do? pm.globals.clear first name.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, everyone's thinking.
There are quite a few options here.
Talk us through it.
Take 1 second to think about this. So what do you think by looking at this code? What do you think at least the intention is?
I'm trying to unset a variable value that I've already initialized. So if I have a variable called first name, I'm trying to clear the value.
Yeah, that's correct. So probably, do you think this will throw an error?
So I'm trying to clear something that's called first name string. That's right. So you can use clear or you can use unset. I don't know if clear is the same as unset.
That's an interesting. You actually mentioned unset originally, so it's kind of interesting.
I wonder if clear will get rid of the entire variable to begin with, not just the value. Maybe unset says like get rid of the value, but clear is like it never was there.
Well, there's definitely a difference between them, but yeah, but at least from the options that are available, there's nothing that would indicate like we're removing the global variable as a whole, or we're resetting the value.
I think it's A.
You think it's A? It's a hard one. It's a hard one. The thing is, you would to remove a global variable, you will have to use what you initially use as a word. It's unset, so that will remove that value. But if you use clear actually, if and it's definitely much easier now in Postman to notice that with the autocomplete. If you look at clear doesn't take any parameters. And JavaScript is the kind of language where you can still send data and it will not complain back that something is wrong. But in this case, clear doesn't take any parameters. So if it doesn't take parameters, the issue with that is that you cannot specify variables. So it kind of looks that you will remove all your global variables. And believe it or not, I made this error myself sometimes, because sometimes it's so easy to confuse like clear and unset, and especially if you're not looking exactly at what you're trying to do, and then things don't work anymore and you don't understand what's going on, and of course all your globals like whoop disappear. So that's as somebody mentioned in the chat, is just clear. You don't have to give any other any parameters.
So if you include a parameter, it'll error. So but if you just use it like clear, open, and close parentheses, then it will remove all global variables.
It will remove the global variables even as it stands right now. Even if you provide a parameter, JavaScript will not complain about this. You can even provide 4 parameters. It will still not care, because it will not look for such parameters there. This is like one of the the way that the language is a bit weird if you compare it to other languages that are a bit more strict in terms of what are you sending, what kind of data types are you throwing at a function.
That's so dangerous,
like that.
This function.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's definitely dangerous. Definitely dangerous. And it's here in the quiz because it happened to me. I also noticed it happened to other people. Clear, unset, they both seem to be like the same thing when they're actually not. So definitely something to watch out for, or to check again the documentation, or when you're auto-completing in Postman, check again the the documentation of the function there to make sure that you're not removing or your variables. And sometimes you may have API keys or maybe data you didn't save anywhere else. And we'll be really happy to lose anything just because of that.
Okay, Valentin, I just looked at the time. We are running a little short on time. I love all this chatter. We are on number 14 out of 25, and it's only going to get harder from here. So let's pick up the pace. If you're not logged in yet, go ahead and log into Twitch.
Okay.
And we are going to be awarding a hoodie at the very end. Next.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, just 1 second here. So this is how the autocomplete now will look like. So if you just open up the clear or the unset, you will see that clear doesn't take any parameters, and then unset will expect a string parameter.
Destructive action.
That's it. Yeah. So question 15. Again, we are now mixing more and more like scripts and variables.
Oh, it's a riddle again.
So let's see what kind of. It's a riddle. Yeah, maybe we'll figure out together.
Okay, so we don't have replace in this time.
Not,
right?
No, that's a good observation. But what will happen? So pm.send request will send
with
the
base
request.
URL, double curly braces.
And I have base URL defined as a global variable. So it's nothing related to like, is the environment selected or not? We have an initial value, we have a current value.
Oh.
So
what?
What?
So double curly brace without replace in doesn't work in the scripting areas, which we are in because it's pm.send request. But if you send request to this URL, does string substitution fulfill it in send request?
Oh, send request will take string as the first parameter, and after that a callback function. So what do you think? So let's kind of
Oh.
eliminate what's not
It's
happening.
A.
So it's A. Why do you think?
Within a
Because
string.
there's no string substitution, right?
There's no string.
So whatever you have in that string, because it will not be substituted, is exactly the way it will be sent. So you can even notice here underneath in the Postman console that, and again, this is one of the things that it can happen to anyone, especially people who are just getting started with scripts, and they use these variables everywhere. Now it's getting a bit harder, like to trying to understand exactly how can I get that base URL variable now inside this weird thing that was generated by Postman, and why can I use this curly brace? Right? It doesn't work that way. Of course, in this case, you can just build your entire URL string in a variable, pretty similar to what I've demonstrated before, like with replace in, if you need to do something like that. So it would be ideal if you have like a base URL and you have like a port, or you have like other elements in your URL.
Yeah.
Got it?
And you're using the console, the new interface that sticks to the bottom. So I use that a lot of times to see like what is resolving, like what does Postman think it is, because it's helpful.
Yeah, it's definitely the best way to try to understand what Postman is doing, and definitely having this like inside Postman, not having to like switch the screen all the time, has been so helpful. So I absolutely love it.
Looks good too.
It's now inside the app. It looks good.
All right.
Okay, let's jump to the next one. Now we're getting into testing, and just getting warmed up with testing, but hopefully you are testing your APIs, and it's super important when you are testing APIs that you also ensure that your tests fail. You would not believe how many tests I've seen that sometimes fail, sometimes don't fail, or people who do not try to see if a test will fail. So it's always good. I definitely recommend this all the time. When you're writing a test, also ensure that it fails so that you can see that error being reported, either continuous integration and so on. That's being reported in your reports, and that, I don't know, pipelines fail or something, lamps will turn red.
I quote you on that. I've given talks before where I'm like, Valentin Despa says, write your tests to ensure that they can fail, because otherwise you're not testing anything.
No, definitely. It's simply a waste of time just to write tests where you have no confidence that they will actually fail when they are supposed to fail.
Okay.
This should be an easy one, right?
Just for the sake of time, and not because I don't know the answer, but let's just go ahead and show them. A lot of people have answered already.
This is a bit harder. Actually, it's much harder than you would expect. But this test will pass.
So the name of the test is should always fail. The function, the expect assertion is I expect true. What's that syntax? The true, comma, false.
This is a syntax that is not recognized by the expect assertion library, because it expects you to close. So the pm.expect will expect only one parameter, and after that you have to build your request like to close that function and say to equal false, for example. That would be like the correct one of writing it. But as you can see, the code looks well. From a JavaScript perspective, it's nothing that is invalid. So you can, as I mentioned previously, you can submit to a function as many parameters as you wish. So somebody looking at this will say, well, this looks good. So if you build this, is something so obvious that it should fail that you shouldn't have any doubt about it. But if you write like more complex expectations, or getting something from the request, from the response body, and asserting something would look like a valid assertion, when actually it isn't.
And in the chat, Matovic had crying camel emoji, and I was like, why? So I did the top leaderboard, and I think Matovic's an SDET and is crying camel. So Well, this is why Valentin's here to teach us some of these little tricks that you've seen before, and now you're sharing it with the rest of us.
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned in the beginning, these are things that I didn't invent them. I couldn't even think about most of the things that you see here in these questions. There, questions that I gotten either on YouTube or either in one of my courses on Udemy or anywhere else where I'm sharing any content. So yeah, this is why I'm here to share these kind of things with you and to try to understand better how things and how expectations and tests
so Kevin
work.
Swiber just dropped a link to the Chai.js test syntax. I have to look at all the time. Shinkin is bouncing, but is in top leaderboard. Mic drop. So we are closing. We're actually going to go fast and furious. We're going to go speed round next. If you just joined us, it looks like some folks just joined us. Go ahead and log into Twitch so that you can play along. We're giving out massive numbers of points. What is the result of running this test in Postman? Go ahead and answer in the in the chat.
Yeah, so you can notice that there's already a difference compared to the previous way that the expectation was written.
So the name of the test is should always pass. The assertion is I expect true to equal true. So I think it should pass.
Should pass. And it passes.
Yay! Okay.
That was an easy one, but just to have a bit of clarity how the syntax should look like, how does a test that works properly.
Don't take this away from us, Valentin. This was not that easy.
No, you're super scared because there were some really, really hard questions, and when you see an easy one, you there's something tricky in there. There's something this looks too good to be true. Sometimes it is true, sometimes it's not. Yeah. Phew. Okay. Again.
What is the result of running this test in Postman?
So what do we have here?
The name of the test is should always pass. There's two assertions. One expects true to equal true, which will not throw an error. So that part is true. That part will pass. It will go on to the next line. Oh! I expect this object is valid.
That's an object, yes.
To equal that object.
So we are, in this case, so in the first assertion, we're comparing a Boolean and expecting it to equal another Boolean, both being true. And the second expectation where we have two objects and they have the same property name is valid, and that property name has the same value, which again is true. The only difference between the first assertion and the second one is that we're dealing with objects.
The question in my head is, how will Postman treat that object? Do I need to JSON parse it, or is it just an object is an object? I don't know.
So that's definitely an interesting one, and that's a valid point. I think you were pretty close to there's something tricky about objects, and indeed there is, because if we're using in Postman to equal, this will actually check if it's the same thing. Now, for numbers or for Booleans or for undefined or anything like that, which are not objects, they cannot be the same instance of something. So something, if you assert Boolean, it will always equal another Boolean. But if you are using to equal for two objects in JavaScript, they will actually be two different objects that equal, but they are not absolutely equal. They're not the same object. So for that reason, in this kind of situations, when you're asserting objects, you need to use the other to equal to EQL, shorter version. Most of the time, it's the only one that you need, because if you're asserting something from a response, you will never have the exact same instance in your test. If you are
so it's like double equals and triple equals.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And yeah, again, it's super easy to get tricked by, I compared something that looks identical in the first assertion, it worked. Why wouldn't the second assertion work as well? Well, the reason is because it's an object. So, and even the assertion error is like really not super clear because you're looking like, no, expected is valid true to equal is valid true. They look the same. They look the same there. What's the problem? Yeah. So you need like this bit of like JavaScript understanding on how these assertions are actually built. But the main takeaway, most cases you will not need to verify that it's the exactly same instance of that object. You just use to EQL.
To be safe, use EQL unless you need it to equal the exact instance. Okay, what is the result of writing this test in Postman?
Yeah, so exactly this kind of syntax that you will use most of the time.
So do I expect age integer to kind of equal 8 or 20 string?
So what do you think? So we have age here, and we're checking if it equals another 20, but that 20 being a string. Do you think they're equal, or will the test pass or not?
I think the data type is different, so it'll fail.
That's a pretty good guess. And yeah, for looking at this, again, something super common, and many people, even looking at this assertion, will miss the single quotes on like to equal 20, or if the quotes are at the first value. So it's super easy to miss and say, well, 20 to deeply equal 20, it's the same thing. No, as Joyce mentioned, they're different data types. So it's kind of like you have to compare, apples with apples. You cannot compare apples with bananas or anything else. Otherwise, Postman goes bananas and will fail your test. But this is like the reason why this will not work. You're comparing a number with a string. So yeah, I think you were like pretty close on this one, Joyce. So I'll give you the point.
Okay, next.
Okay, 5 more questions to go, I think. So 25 in total. There's not much time left. Maybe again the leaderboard. Sorry.
Did it not show?
Or not?
Okay. Let's see who's on top. Oh no, what if we broke the bot?
No.
You see it's not working, right? Oh, why? Okay.
Oh, we can still fix it.
We'll work in the background on this.
No worries. So for this question, you can notice that we have here some code. There's no environment selected, but in the test itself, I'm calling pm.environment.get a value from the environment that is not selected. And now in this case, it's expecting that response.name to equal that value from the environment. So I can warn you, this is a bit tricky. And you need to know like 2 things. So you need to focus on both sides of like the expectation. So what are you expecting and what do you think it should equal? And just to give you a hint on that one, I think you may not encounter it all the time, but if probably pm.environment.get will get you an undefined back. So
we have some suggestions in the chat.
You will have response that, yes. Yeah. So, I don't think a JavaScript error will be raised because, This is not how the code itself is valid. So and also Postman will not explicitly complain if you call the environment, but there's no environment available. This is something that you may encounter not so much in Postman itself, because then it's so easy to see if the environment is selected. I've seen a lot of people like struggling with automation when they're using Newman for running their collection. They forget to include the environment, and then nothing works anymore. So this is an interesting case, and the thing with this is that it will pass, but for a very weird reason. I don't know if you noticed in the response, name and age are both written with a capital N and A. So your assertion, if you're writing response.name in lowercase, then that property name in lowercase doesn't exist. And for that reason, as you can see in the first expectation, I'm just trying to make it like as explicit as possible here. You will see that name is undefined. And also, when you're trying to get an environment, but the environment is not selected, that will be undefined as well. So in that case, you will have undefined to equal undefined, which of course is true, and the test will pass. So sometimes you may encounter this kind of double, have misspelled something from the response, and also you have forgotten to select an environment. And this is, again, like an evergreen test. This will like never fail if you don't provide the right environment, or if you don't use the right properties from the response. Whatever happens with the response or whatever happens with the environment, the test will still.
You are melting people's brains in the chat right now.
Well, we're coming towards the end,
hard.
so of course the questions are getting harder and harder.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Should I move to the next one? Okay, 21. I think there will only be a few more with like tests and easier. So I'm not trying to bring it down, guys. So just trying to.
No, you're teaching us stuff. These are kind of like riddles.
Yeah, kind of riddles, okay. Yeah. But for like Postman nerds and people who really like
Postman nerds
want to understand how it's working.
Postman nerds, answer 21. We're going to have shorter and shorter times for you to figure this out, only because we're nearing the end of our time. So what is the result of running the script in Postman? Put in your answers now. You have 10 more seconds. Oh, there's pressure.
10 more seconds.
I have to pee too, so like, I'm just trying to wrap this up.
Oh, come on. You're ruining the fun here. Yeah. So is there anything that you notice in this code, Joyce? Something, unusual, or think everything is?
I expect response name to EQL John. You do use the doubles and singles. And then I set the name, a global variable name, to response.name, but response is inside the test. So I wonder if like, if it's like,
mm-hmm. You wonder correctly, yes. So it's again something that happens a lot. JavaScript has these scopes. So what's happening when you're inside pm.test, you're actually inside the function. So whatever you define in that function, especially when using const and let and this way of defining variables, they will only exist within that function. So as soon as this execution of the function stops and you go to like the other level, like outside of the pm.test, and you try to use the variable that you think you defined, in this case response, now you'll get this like a reference error, like response is not defined. Of course, as always, JavaScript is right. It's not defined.
That's just basic
in the right
JavaScript.
Scope. Basic JavaScript, nothing special. One more assertion here.
What is the result of running this script in Postman? PM expect 1 to equal 2. This will never pass.
Damn it.
I'll do the leaderboard after this.
Sure.
Oh my gosh. So there's only 3 more questions after this. This is either a trick question or it's
Yeah.
easy points.
And it can be either of them. We don't know. But one thing is sure, we are running out of time.
Okay, so we got 3 more seconds. Put your answers in.
this.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, it will never pass, but it actually does pass. And the thing with the pm.test function is that it takes 2 parameters. And in this case, we only provided 1 parameter. We provided the test name, which you can actually see there below. This will pass. And then we have a comma, and we're starting something else. So this function that we have this expect, this is like, it's valid JavaScript. It looks a bit weird, but it's valid. And practically Postman will ignore it because it's not inside pm.test. So for that reason, there's no assertion inside the test. The test
You fooled
will
us. You
pass.
fooled us with that parentheses.
Yeah.
That's also
Right now
one
at the
thing
end.
that I do like to tell people. Name your tests accordingly, because like a test name that says this will never pass, that passes or fails, is so confusing. Oh wait, let me do the
definitely.
leaderboard really quickly.
We're just doing
how many
for fun.
more questions?
I think only
Which tool
1, 2,
can
3
help
more
you run
questions.
a Postman collection using the CLI? Go ahead and answer it.
Come on.
Go ahead and answer.
It's easy.
If you know it, go ahead and answer.
Be quick. Grab that points.
Okay, this one is easy if you're a Postman nerd, but hard because you're Googling if not. So we'll just give it 5 more seconds and then we'll move on. Valentin, whenever you're ready.
3, yes, 2, 1, 0, go. So Newman is the CLI companion for Postman. Newman
Postman
from Seinfeld.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I probably should have done leaderboard after we awarded the points. Whoa, some shakeups here. Okay.
No worries. Ooh. Okay. So since we introduced Newman, Newman is this tool that can really be helpful if you're doing continuous integration, continuous deployment. You want to integrate your API tests in automated systems like Jenkins or GitLab CI or anything else. And that's super, super useful. But in order to install Newman, in order to create that environment where you can use it, it's not like something you easily download from the internet, then double click and install it.
This one was so easy, but I mean, not like so easy if you knew Newman, but like this one, you were rewarded for speed, and you only have 1 more opportunity. Last question, Valentin.
Last one.
Export this environment as a
variables
JSON
again
file and want to use it with Newman. What is the Oh no, I don't know.
Oh no! Oh my God! So what do we have here? We have this environment, and most of the time, if you're working with Newman, you need to export your collection. Sorry. And you need to export the environments if you have in this case, I have this base URL and I have the API key. So I need them in Newman as well in order to run the collection. So what happens when I export this environment and I'm giving it to Newman? Which value will base URL have if I have base URL somewhere in the address or anything like that?
Wait. Is she
you know it?
So Newman, when you export it, current value stays with your session.
That's correct.
So you should only export the environment with the initial value.
That is a correct one. And this is how an exported environment looks like. So you will see here that you have, of course, the API key, the base URL, but you only have the value fix me. And this happens a lot. Some people leave it totally empty, the initial value. Some people write something like replace me or fix me. Then everything works in Postman, everything works in the collection runner. But as soon as you export this environment, all of a sudden you will get if you have an API key 401 status codes, stuff will not work anymore. Yeah. So, that's about it. 1.5 hours later.
Okay, so we are running slightly over time. What we have to do is I'll run the top leaderboard so we find out who are the top 3 winners. And top 3 winners will tweet us and let us know that you were, winning. And then we'll give you some amazing swag. I do want to I do want to say that we do have 2 sessions next week. Normally it's every week on Thursday. Oh, and Valentin, if you have links to some of your like your YouTube channel, go ahead and drop it in the chat now.
Yeah,
Um
I'll drop
we have
the
2
chat.
sessions next week. So this was actually pretty script heavy, pretty test heavy. Next week, I think on Tuesday, we have a special session that's going to focus on the Monaco editor, which is the underpinning of the pre-request script and test tabs.
Mhm.
Some of the history behind the Monaco editor. I'm really excited about that. One of our engineers will join us for that. And then we also have, as we talked about earlier, an open API session with an external special guest, open API with webhooks. So pretty code heavy next week. We're not always so code heavy, but next week happens to be pretty code heavy. So make sure you follow us if you don't already, so you receive the notifications. And I am going to go ahead and do the leaderboard. You ready, Valentin?
Ooh, I'm so excited.
Okay, so Macrobus is getting a hoodie. Then Matovic and
Woohoo!
Creekburn. Yes. Congratulations, every win. Oh my gosh, some people got some high
Congratulations, guys.
totals. And I think some
Yeah.
people came in late and got some of those hard questions. So that was very exciting.
Yeah. And no, amazing people participated. And yeah, I hope overall you enjoyed it. And the questions apparently, no, they were hard, but I think we had some fun with them and we learned something.
Valentin,
Right?
those were so hard. I'm really impressed at whoever did get some of those questions. I think thank you for putting that together. That was like the post-con talk that you gave, but like way longer and more in depth. And I really appreciate all the comments that we had in the chatter because it's really interesting how some of these are riddles, but like they make you think through it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's sometimes definitely good to be like keep your mind active and not always things work the way we think they should work when working with APIs. So just keeping in mind like an open mind and trying to like debug yourself through anything that occurs is definitely the best way to go.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and maybe we'll have you on as a guest in the future. But Valentin, how can we stay in touch with you? What is the best way to see what you're working on?
Well, whatever I'm working on, it's definitely on YouTube. I'm posting YouTube tutorials on YouTube almost on a weekly basis. Of course, if you're just getting started with Postman or you want to get into more advanced topics, I also have some courses on Udemy. You can check them out. And yeah, overall, you can reach me on different places, either on Udemy, you can reach me on YouTube by leaving a comment. You can search me on LinkedIn or on Twitter. So, or even in the Postman community, if you have any questions, you're there. And I'll do all my best to help out. I really enjoy like being part of this community, answering questions. And I know many of you are working like super exciting things, are trying to like use Postman like at the absolute limit of what has been designed for. And I find all this kind of interactions, all these kind of questions like super excited. It makes me, really think and, try to apply interesting solutions to whatever you're working at.
Yeah, Valentin, sometimes you create content faster than the Postman team can create content. I think you published a video just within the last few days about Postman on the web, which is brand new. I think Arlemy talked about it last week, but you posted a video that was like a review of it and you had some comments and you had a TLDR and our engineering team was like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. So you really get the jump on us too. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And Valentin, again, thank you so much for joining us. And you're a celebrity in the Postman community. The Postman team is like, oh my God, Valentin's going to be on. So hopefully you can join us again soon.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.